Okay, so let's look at writing a program for Lab 4. The first part of Lab 4 requires that we create a menu, and a menu that won't allow an invalid menu selection. So I'm going to open Microsoft Visual Studio Express. Okay, so I'm making a new project, Lab 4. It's a console application, Win32 console application. Empty project. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start out this program with a comment. This program creates a menu that has 3 selections. And I'll add to that comment as we go along. The first thing I'm going to do is include my libraries. I'm including IOStream, and I'm using namespace standard. Then I need my main portion of the program. And I always put a close bracket after an open bracket, and then I go back up and put my text in between so that I keep my number of brackets correct. So I'm going to declare some variables. The first variable is going to be the user's menu choice, and to start off with, let's make it a number menu choice. Okay, and then I want a menu, and to start off with, I'm just going to print the menu, and that's it. So the first thing I have to do is see out the options so the user knows what they are. Please put the options first. And what were we required to do? Print sine waves, print cosine waves, or quit. So I'm going to say print cosine waves, and I'm going to put an endl. Now I could put this all in one line, but it's a lot easier to read if I put it on multiple lines. So I'm going to say print sine waves, and instead of endl, I could actually within here put a \n, and that would do the same thing as giving a new line. And the third option is to quit. Close that, and I like putting endls. Okay, so there's my menu, my 3 options that the user is going to pick between. I have to give them an opportunity to give me the value. So I'm going to see out once more and say, please enter an option. And I'm going to put the C in, which is where they're going to give me the value. And I'm going to store what they enter in menu choice. And just so we can test it, I'm going to see out you have entered option. And then I'm going to see out the value in menu choice. So this just allows me to see what they've entered. And that's a good way to test your program. And my couts are going the wrong way. Okay, so let me run this. Still building, and here we go. So it says print cosine waves, print sine waves, quit, please enter an option. So it's waiting for me to enter an option. I'm going to enter 1. It says you have entered option 1, and then it closes really quickly because I forgot to put a system pause at the end. So I'm going to add that in. System pause. Let's add a comment. Hold the screen open. And I'm going to add a comment up here that says display menu and accept user choice. Okay, so let's run that again. Okay, so we've run it again. I'm going to enter option 1, and then now it says I've entered option 1, and it holds the screen open. So all we did there is just make a menu that accepts an option. So now we want to alter this program and make it so that the menu will keep looping if we enter an invalid option. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is put a do loop around the menu. So I'm going to say do while, and don't forget for the do while you need a semicolon after the while, but only when the while is on the bottom like this. And I'm going to take all of this stuff and indent it. Okay, and you notice I didn't put a condition in there. Now I have to think about it. I have to think, okay, this condition should be the condition for which I repeat the loop. And by repeating means I'm going to display the menu again and wait for the choice. So I want to do that if menu choice is not equal to 1, and if menu choice is not equal to 2, and if menu choice is not equal to 3. And you could also have said, you know, if menu choice is less than 1 or greater than 3, that would have been acceptable as well. So not equal to 3. So if it's not any of my valid options, I want to repeat this. A lot of people want to put or here. It has to be an and, because if they enter 2, I don't want to repeat. If they enter 3, I don't want to repeat. If they enter 1, I don't want to repeat. So I only want to repeat if they haven't entered any of these, which means not 1, and it wasn't a 2, and it wasn't a 3, then I want to repeat. So let's test this. Okay, so my menu displays. I'm able to enter, okay, so let's try something that isn't allowed. -1, it displays the menu again. 0 displays the menu again. 4 displays the menu again. 5, 6, 1 doesn't display the menu again. So the loop works, but it doesn't look as good as it could. So a few things. First, let's comment this and say loop to redisplay menu if invalid option entered. So we know why we have this loop. The other thing to recognize is that I had to have a do while loop instead of just a while loop, because a do while loop will run this at least once. I have to run it at least once to get this value for menu choice, because if I don't have a value for menu choice, I can't evaluate this condition, right? So I need the user to enter a value first before I consider whether or not I should loop. So the other thing I'm going to do is, if we're going to display the menu again, we really should clear the screen, because that looked pretty messy. So I'm going to clear the screen. And there's one more thing I want to do, but let's just make sure that this clear screen works. Okay, so I'm going to enter -1, and it redisplays the menu. Clears the screen. Okay, let's see, 4. So it still works. 1, you've entered 1. Okay, so I want that to happen. This cout was just in here for my testing, so I could take that out. The other thing that we should add, before you display the menu again, you should give a notice that okay, so what I want to do is, if they've entered a bad choice, I really should tell them that they've entered a bad choice. And when do I want to tell them they've entered a bad choice? Well, it's the same condition here, right? The same condition for which I want to loop around is the condition on which they've entered a bad choice. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say if they've entered a bad choice, and notice put both brackets, then go back in and space down. I'm going to let the user know their choice was bad. Okay, so I'm going to do cout, space down a bit. I'm going to say you have entered an invalid option. Okay, and that'll just let them know that they've entered an invalid option, and I'm going to system pause so that it pauses before clearing the screen and displaying the menu again. Okay, so here's my menu. I'm going to enter 0. It says you have entered an invalid option. I'm getting my press any key to continue right beside that, which doesn't look very good, so I might fix that. But then when I press enter, it clears the screen and gives the menu again, right? So if I enter 1, and then that's done, right? So let me just fix this by putting another new line there. And I'm going to fix this spelling mistake option. The other thing I want to do, so I have a menu that works now and it repeats if the user has entered an invalid choice. The other thing I want to do, well, first, before we do that, I'll just demonstrate where you would put the code if you were going to act on the menu choice. So I really just needed this loop to get me a valid menu choice. Once I've got a valid menu choice, then I can just look at it. So I could say if menu choice equals, now here I have to put a double equals because it's a comparison. If menu choice is equal to 1, I'm going to do something, right? And all I would do for now is just cout option 1 has been chosen, just so that I know I've gone into this portion of the code and that it works, right? So I would I still might need another loop around my whole program if I want to return to my menu after executing option 1, but that's a different loop. So this loop here was just repeating until I got a good option, and then I'm going to go ahead and do things based on depending on which option was entered. And I'm going to save this before I get too far. So let's just run that, make sure that works. And normally I would have written out this big plan of where I want to put each loop on paper before I start, just so that I have it clear in my head, what pieces need to go where, and I can make sure it's a logical layout. In this case, I was just doing it as I went along, which I don't recommend. So I'm going to pick option 1. It says option 1 has been chosen, so I know that it went into my if statement here. The other thing that I want to demonstrate to you is just a bit of troubleshooting. Suppose I wanted to make these menu options A, B, and C. So then I know here I need to put A in single quotes, B in single quotes, and C in single quotes. Okay, so then I'm going to run this again. And there's a mistake here, but I'm going to show you how we find it. Just waiting for that to build. Okay, so it's run, and I'm going to enter option capital A, and it says I've entered an invalid option. And I press any key to continue. And it just keeps looping, saying I've entered invalid options. So now you're looking at the code and you're wondering, well, but I know my loop structure worked before. Why isn't it working now? And this type of error can be very hard to find because when I look through this code, the logic of the code is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with this logic in our layout because we did it before with numbers and it worked, right? So when you get into this type of situation, the thing to do is put a cout here and display menu choice. The menu choice is. And I'm going to cout menu choice and an end line. Now you might feel like it's a little bit silly to do this because we know what the menu choice is. It's what we entered, right? But what we need to do is verify, okay, I've entered an A. Did the computer get an A? Because the computer wasn't doing what we expected, so we need to see, okay, what did the computer get? I assumed it got an A, but I should never assume. I should always check. So the way to check is to put a cout statement displaying menu choice back to the screen. Okay, so there's my menu. I'm going to enter capital A. And I see it says that the menu choice I've entered is really -858993460, which is not A at all. So in that case, I've entered an A, but the computer doesn't see it as an A. And that is my clue that my variable type is mismatched. Right? So if I go back here and look, aha, menu choice is still an integer. When I change to letters, I should have made this a character. And now when I run the program, it should work. So let's see. So while we're waiting for this to run, that's the first part of Lab 4, and it's a good demonstration of, how to logically step through and build up your program and test at each little stage. Okay, so let's see. Capital A, the menu choice is A. And let's see, it should have not repeated. It's getting an A, see, what if I enter like V? You have entered an invalid option, and it does repeat. Okay, so let's check this. It is accepting our A, but it's still repeating the menu even though my option is valid, which I didn't want at this stage. So if I go back and look, aha, I see that I forgot to change this part of my do loop to correspond to the letters. So I'm going to fix that and run that again. So it's really this slow process of making a small change, checking to see that that worked, making another small change, and checking to see that that worked, and really having a critical eye on your program to see, you know, why it's doing what it's doing, because it's doing exactly what we tell it to do. Make sure that we've told it to do the right thing and in the right way, you know, with variables declared as the right type. Okay, so I'm going to enter an invalid option first. So G, it repeats, it tells me it's invalid. There's the menu again. This time when I enter an A, and it completes. And that's what we wanted. Okay.